Raven used to always have a crush on Janet Jackson, even before she ever came out. As a kid, I didn't know what that meant, but then I was like, hold up, actually, she's Janet Jackson. If you ever see this, Raven had a whole poster of you in her
Janet knows. Janet knows. Janet knows.
Yeah, we're spilling tea today, right?
Today is a little bit different. We're actually not going to go into the pot. You reached out to us. You said, hey, you guys, I have some tea to spill.
Cool. We like come tea.
Come spill the tea on tea time. So we're actually going to be talking about a documentary that recently came out called Quiet on Set. Who better to have than you two to talk about the dark side of TV?
Which is also the reason why I thought it would be better for me to have this conversation, especially with Raven. You know, she's experienced being a child star. I know what it's like being on a, Nickelodeon sitcom in this particular case. I haven't watched the documentary. I will let that be known.
We watched it.
We did. And for anyone out there who hasn't seen it, Quiet on Set is about Nickelodeon shows under the reign of, let's say, Dan Schneider.
Yes.
And there was a lot of
toxicity behind the scenes and some hiring of pedophiles.
Yeah, most specifically within this documentary, Drake Bell comes forward talking about the sexual abuse and molestation that he
received from the dialogue coach.
Yeah.
You know, it's very unfortunate what happened to, even like Drake Bell, because that's someone that I know personally, not just on a meet and first name basis, but like we've traveled the world. We've done humanitarian work together. We've fed children in Nicaragua and Peru together. Like we've done a lot of things. So even for me to hear that was shocking. They'll blame people or try to victimize people for coming out late. But a lot of times you don't know what those people are dealing with or how it weighs on them.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. You were hired as what character on Zoe 101?
I played Michael Barrett on Zoe 101. We had a lot of fun. I mean, we were kids. When I auditioned, I think I was 13. I think when I got the role, and I think I was 14 on the first season. And what's really funny is I actually found out that I booked the role on the set of That's So Raven.
Yeah, because his brother plays my brother.
Yeah, I was going to say Kyle Massey was on That's So Raven.
Yeah, so I was walking through the halls of That's So Raven, and my mom was like, you got the Zoe 101, you got it. I'm like, all right, cool.
So when you're on Zoe 101, were parents around and were they allowed to be on set? Because that was one of the things that the documentary touches on, that parents weren't allowed around.
For us, my mom, my dad, they were on set.
Yep.
No matter what. It's a really touchy subject that people should understand that aren't familiar with being on a set. Your mom and dad have full authority to be on set.
I know your parents and you know mine.
Yeah.
And there are some parents that are so mesmerized by the glitz and glamour.
Yep.
This person's going to take care of my kid and this is it. And then there are other families and cultures that say, if you touch my kid, I'm killing you.
Yep.
So I'm going to be underneath them all day long.
And that's what I was going to say, that there are people who I think when their kids book roles, they all of a sudden kind of jump into a different tax bracket, and then you're around professionals, right? Like, not all parents understand the industry, so they come into it just as green as their young child who just booked this role.
Most of the kids that were on shows that I was on Nickelodeon or Disney, they know my parents. I know their parents. I know Raven's mom, dad, just like she knows my mom and dad. Jamie Lynn's mom or dad was on set every day. I know what Victoria's mom and dad look like. I know what Sean Flynn's mom and dad look like. If you go back and watch, I do this all the time when I watch That's So Raven with my kids, you'll hear my mom laughing. You'll hear my dad laughing. You'll hear her mom laughing.
Yeah.
Like, I know their laughs. And I'm like, oh, that's my mom. Oh, that's Miss Lydia. That's how close they were on set. And I'll explain this for the people at home that don't know how this works, right? So I'm going to give you a very simple day-to-day of as a kid being on set, right? You get there, it might be 7 in the morning, right? That's your call time. Your mom and dad, you come in with your mom and dad, they say, hey, look, what do you want for breakfast? You got to go to the schoolroom, doing your studies. Say you do school for 2-3 hours, and they say, hey, look, we need you in hair and makeup. The rule on our set, which was kind of the same way with
it's an unspoken rule. It's not a real rule. It's unspoken.
Yeah, but what they would do is the person who would say, hey, you got to go to hair and makeup. The same person, his name was Tim, he would come in, he would say, we need you at hair and makeup, and then you got to go to set. Right after he would get me from the school trailer, he would go to my trailer, tell my dad, hey, Chris is going to set. Obviously, some parents are more hands-on than others, right?
Because we definitely have worked with people whose parents did not bring them to set.
Exactly.
We've worked with those people.
Yeah. Where's he going? Where's he about to be? I'm with him.
You know, one thing that really irks me is that child actors and children in entertainment aren't protected under federal laws.
Yep.
And
Crazy.
which is absolutely crazy.
Insane.
You know, it says there's no federal law protecting child actors. Yes, in 1938, Congress passed the FLSA labor law, a labor law that established a minimum wage for children, including age standards, hours, and wages. However, this was only for industries in agriculture and manufacturing. But the one industry that is exempt from adhering to the FLSA was entertainment. As a result, each state is left to decide which labor laws they wish to enact, if any. I do believe with what we went through, there does need to be a standard across the board of what we can and cannot do and what needs to happen for us. And at the same time, I will say thank you to all the teachers that keep up great laws for us.
Absolutely, they do.
And keep it. And there's many teachers inside of the teacher union that are working to create a standard of work environment for the child.
And then there are 17 states which have 0 laws. So, for example, if a production knew that, they could potentially fly their production out to let's say,
location.
Mississippi, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, where there is no regulation for children, and then work them.
And a lot of, I will say to the industry, they don't really fly us to those random states that have no.
Yeah, not too much.
Not too much.
Yeah.
And at the same time, just in case.
Yeah.
Just in case you find that one production that wants to skirt, put us under federal law and make it safe for everyone.
Yeah. I mean, because I had a really amazing teacher on my set, Miss Patty Foy, who I love you to death. She was...
Shout out to the teachers.
The teachers, man. And it's funny because I'm so glad we mentioned that because not only was my mom and dad on set, but my teacher, Miss Patty Foy, she would be on it. The teacher on the set has like the highest authority. Like people don't know that when you're on a kid's set, your teacher can come and pull you off that set and say, "Hey, look, he's got to do math homework."
And she can shut the whole production down if he doesn't like something, or he can shut the whole production down if they don't like something.
Ooh.
Absolutely.
Teachers have a lot of power, and and some of them use it.
Recognition.
And
some
some
do,
of them don't.
and some just play the role and sit back. But Miss Foy, she would come there and she would talk to them and she'd say, "Hey, listen, he's got stuff he's got to do right now. He has to go." They would hate it, but at the end of the day, school comes first.
I think that it's worth noting that a set is a very weird little bubble because especially if you do more than one season, you're in this kind of intense pressure cooker of an environment with people where you get to know each other. It feels kind of familial. And I think that it could be easy potentially for a parent to maybe step back, especially when I think kids start getting to the 15, 16 area.
So that's another thing, right? Let's also talk about how you have young people accumulating thousands of dollars a week. Sometimes kids are making more money than their parents. Yeah. So then we have to kind of dive into the psyche
most of the time. I'm sorry, most of the
time.
time.
But then you have like people like
David Henry.
David Henry. You'd be like, "Hey, you driving up and anyway, love you, David." Knowing that your child is making more money than you, and that you have to make things work because it then becomes your livelihood, can only be, for lack of a better word, a mind.
And again, if you don't have the education, if you are a green parent to this and you're kind of like, okay, I just want to facilitate, and then you have other adults saying like, oh, don't worry about it. Or, it's
weird. I do want to kind of bring it to that weird section because looking at the documentary, one thing that I saw, and please comment in the comments.
Yeah, comment in the comments. Where else would you comment?
Where would you comment?
Or you know what? Don't comment in the comments. Comment somewhere else.
Comment somewhere else. But please tell me if I'm wrong in the comments. But it really did feel like Dan Schneider was kind of dismissive of his male black characters.
Me and Kyle always joke about this. I'm like, you were on the one all-black show with the one white cast member, and I was on the all-white cast member, and I was the only black one.
Hilarious. Brothers were happy at the same
It's like you guys had Chelsea and they had me. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed being on set. I never felt excluded. He did a really good job of making it like Friends for teenagers. That's kind of what our show was, right? Yeah. It was like, we're always sitting around a big table. We're all eating together. We're all like hanging out together. When I see that people say like, even the thing like toxic work environment, I'm not here to defend anyone. I'm just here to say what my truth is.
Yeah. Right? Did you witness toxic?
I believe that we grew up in a way, right, where certain people can get upset or angry or lash out sometimes. Right?
Yeah.
But For me,
it's not toxic.
It's not toxic. It's like
that's normal.
Yeah, it's, you know what I mean. Like
for those who know what we talk about,
I'll give you like this. My dad was a Marine, and you know he was very strict, very stern, but he was loving, fun.
Love me some Mike Massey.
Yeah, everyone loves my dad. Fun person to be around, but he was very stern and strict with us. So for me, when someone would say, "Hey, you gotta get your shit together. Let's go. We gotta go." For me, it was okay. Let me learn my lines. Let me focus. Let's get this moving because we got you know we're on a schedule. And you have to understand too, when you're dealing with kids.
Yeah.
Okay, you're dealing with kids who are all the same age. We're all like have girlfriends, or we're all like puberty. We're flirting with each other. We're telling jokes, and we're doing all these things. It's sometimes you can lose track of this is work. Yeah. Right? You can be on set and you're laughing and joking while they're like trying to block and they're trying to light and they're like, hey, look, we're losing sunlight. Because you got to think, my show filmed outside as well. So it's like, when you're losing sunlight, they're like, we can't film this tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? So for me, yeah, I've witnessed him be upset when things were going wrong, but so does every boss. So does every manager. You know what I mean? Like, if we're going to say that someone yelling is a toxic environment, you have to look at all sports. All coaches.
That's very toxic.
Right?
I want to hold. Okay. I want you to go to the bathroom and clean your nose.
Jesus, really?
Go to the bathroom and clean your nose.
Hey. Only Raven could ever even... Where is it?
Right there.
Thanks, Raven.
You're welcome, brother.
Go to the bathroom and clean it up. You should keep that in there.
Totally understand what you're saying, and I agree. I grew up in a household where aggressive words were not to bring you down, but to build you up. What I think the documentary is showing the toxicity is the fact that he was asking for massages from people. He was not creating, you know, a safe environment for an actor under the age of 18 to voice their concerns. He was bulldozing ideas of women in the writers' room.
Yeah, I was going to say, he was really terrible to his 2 female staff writers. It was an abuse of power. And I think that even there was a director, and all that director, who was talking about how there was a palpable difference when Dan would kind of come on to set and an energy shift. And granted, you know what I mean? Like, some people are going to be more sensitive to that. Some people are going to have more awareness. I'm not saying that like you didn't have the experiences you had at all, but I think that the people who were coming forward clearly had really negative encounters and felt very unsafe. And across the board, regardless of how you were raised, when we're at work, the hope is everyone feels safe. They were talking about that segment that was kind of like a truth or dare, where these kids were being required to do really uncomfortable things that they didn't like, as far as like one of the boys had to get into a nude colored suit and be covered in peanut butter and licked by dogs. These oddly kind of sexual, yet we're making it fun and playful because it's kids. And it was always kind of on the borderline. And I think that when we look at it today versus what it was then, people were a lot more tolerant then than they are now.
And that's just the way society goes with television. If you go back to the beginning of television, you could not do the things that you can't do them now. There was a character on her show, she was looking back at her career on that show, and she said that over-sexualizing a young girl at that age made her very uncomfortable in her life.
Also, it's worth being said too that like a young girl's experience is
different than a young
very
boy's
different than a young
100%. For the fans, it hurts me for them because like I get so many people who come at me like, you know, or I'll see the comments and they're like, this ruined my childhood. My childhood's ruined because of
welcome. When I was gay, when I came out as gay, I ruined everybody's childhood. Y'all fine now, right?
Yeah.
But I think that having these conversations is really important, and
Absolutely.
I really commend all of the people who were brave enough to come forward and
tell
say,
their truth.
This was my truth. And also, I mean, I think it's worth acknowledging too, a lot of wonderful experience comes from this career. And,
it does.
You meet a lot of amazing people, and there are a lot of fantastic people on set.
You create friendships for life.
You create friendships for life. That family can be super strong. But with every good, there is some bad.
I don't think we would have been able to have this kind of conversation years ago. You know, because of the hashtag Me Too movement and hashtag Him Too movement, I think we've been able to really put it out there.
What's the hashtag Him Too movement?
Put it out there. Me too. Men go through stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Men go through stuff too.
And they don't, I can say, like, when I was younger, under the age of 18, like, there were women that were older than me that I was, you know, having interactions with that probably should not have happened. Because I was a kid, I did not understand that. I'm like, oh, this girl wants me. But then you realize when you get older, it's like for men, they look at it as more of like a
trophy.
It's more of a cool thing. Or if you come forward and say, this woman touched me inappropriately when I was 14, 15, or wanted to have sex with me, then it's like, oh, why are you gonna tell on her? She wanted to, you know. Yeah. But then when you get older, you realize like, well, that was kind of like not okay, not cool, okay. Right? You know what I mean?
And if you make that hashtag, people like Drake Bell can speak out and be validated and understand what's going on. With them, you know. So let's talk about the fact that you are a father, because I just want to let everybody know where you are now and how your life is going, and if you've contracted any mental health issues because of your experience.
I do have children. I love them to death, and there was a time where people wanted to represent them. They wanted to get them out there to put them on.
That was going to be my question to both of you.
Yeah, and so, you know, at first it was kind of like, okay, cool, like, oh, yeah, but then you kind of like take a step back and you go like, you know what? I really wanted to be on TV, right? Like I used to watch movies like The Sandlot, all those movies, and I used to be like, I want to do this, like play baseball all day and get paid. Like as a young age, I always want to do that. People like Raven and stuff like that. I know I had a conscious choice in saying I wanted to do this, right? Like my kids I'll ask them sometimes, I'm like, when they'll watch, because my daughters all watch Zoe 101 and That's So Raven. They love That's So Raven like crazy. The cool thing is about it is like you ask them sometimes like, oh, would you ever want to do that? Or, you know, and like my daughter Bella, she's like, no, I want to be a rock star.
If I had a kid who at like 3 years old was showing artistic skill and they were saying, I really want to be on TV, I'd be like, great. The first thing we're going to do is put you into like a little theater camp.
Everyone looks at being on TV and all this is like, you can be famous, you can make a lot of money and all this, right? But no one ever stops to think of the longevity of what happens to this person, right? The average person right now could go, you know, God forbid, get a DUI, right? On a Thursday afternoon. By Friday, he's out. Saturday, Sunday, he sleeps it off. Monday, he's back to work, right? No one knows unless you tell your boss or you tell your friends. Me or Raven go get a DUI tonight, everyone's going to know before I can even call my mom and tell her what happened. Once you put them into this spotlight, it's forever. It's not just when you're on the #1 show. It's not just when you're 12. It's for the rest of your life. Everything that you do, every misstep you take, most people can live their lives doing these things and learning from them. But when we do it, it's, can you believe they did this?
One of the original cast members of All That said that, you know, her parents got a call from the producer saying she was getting too fat, and she was like, oh my God. And then literally she was like, I was in the middle of puberty. A month later, I got my first period, and then I became kind of a woman, and then I was too womanly. And I think that is also super intense when you are that vulnerable and then having commentary on your body, let alone your mishaps, like, I mean, Lindsay Lohan, right, who we saw in court multiple times.
And people think that their child is going to be different. We all go through the same mental health issue, which is...
Are you saying all child
stars go through the same mental health issue? It's a silent underneath layer of, I always have to live up to what other people need me to be and see and entertain.
Absolutely.
Even if I'm no longer entertaining in front of the television. I don't know if you've experienced this, but when you took your step back, did you feel like you needed to be the life of the party? Did you feel like you needed to live up to the Chris Massey that everybody knows?
There are certain people, right, who grew up in stardom, right? I've been on tour with Raven having to be ushered through the hallways of screaming girls everywhere and all this, right? But what happens is, in this realm that we're in, some people were not mentally strong enough to accept when their reign is over, right? When their superstardom has now dwindled to, oh, hey, you're the guy from... I used to love that show. Yeah. When it becomes that, certain people who are addicted to the lights and the action and everything, they can't dial it back and live a normal life.
When you're a kid and your brain is developing and you become addicted to that dopamine hit,
it's
that
terrible.
Thrill, like,
look, there are days when I wake up and I'm like, man, I'm not where I'm supposed to be because of the idea.
That all the time.
I do it all the time because of the idea of what I was told I should be. And when I see others that look like me, have bigger careers than me, even though it came faster and mine is a slower process, it's taken me almost 38 years to be like, hey, I don't have to necessarily have the same fame as someone.
Yeah.
I can still succeed in this industry. I just have to pivot.
Yeah.
Every single day, the conversation was, you better keep going, otherwise you're going to work at a place that you don't want to work and you're going to be embarrassed.
Yeah.
And you better be on your shit and do
Yep.
the right thing, because if you do the wrong thing,
Keep
you're
it
going to
going.
get fired
Yeah.
and you're not going to make the money that you're, like, it was that
Yep.
scare tactic.
It's the keeping you on the train.
What do you do, Mom? What do you do, Dad? And telling me that you're my manager, in my mind, is not enough of an answer to make me go, oh, okay, you right.
Well, that's hard, right? There's a two.
And
there's,
sorry,
it's a double,
all the parents hate me right now.
no, there's
No.
a double-edged
Like,
sword. There's a
It
double-edged
is.
sword
It
because
is.
this is what you're supposed to do. I am making sure that you're taken care of.
Yep.
And the other side of it is exactly what you're saying. I was so young to make this decision. What if my life was supposed to be something else, but now I have this brain situation where I'm always going to be here? Some parents are so helicoptery that even as I become an adult, you won't go away and let me live my own life because of this. Some parents disappear fully and not help the child grow mentally to where they can't take care of themselves.
Right.
And then you see the people fall. So
Absolutely.
there has not been good education on either side of the sword.
Yeah.
In order to
100%.
create a safe space. I had a song a long time ago, never released it, but it was Hollywood is thicker than blood. Because at the end of the day,
Wow, that's
you
a powerful
will
statement.
lose a family member of some kind. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Because
It's-
I'm talking about cousins. Cousins saying, you ain't paying me, you my cousin.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I just came to kick it.
Yeah.
No.
Where my money at?
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like
No,
any
it's
type of
true.
you will always lose a family member of
Yeah.
some kind.
Understood.
if
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
happens.
That's
yeah.
true.
What would you have wanted to be different, if anything? Or what do you think could have been different for those people to prevent some of the negative of working child actor?
You have to protect your child at all times. I'll say this. Someone asked me, it was like, well, you were on a Dan Schneider show. Would you put your kids on a Dan Schneider TV series? And my answer was, if my child experienced the exact same thing that I experienced on the set, I would say yes. But obviously now there's a lot more stuff that's going on.
You would be there with your kids to
I'm
make
going
sure
to
that
be
experience
there the
happens.
way my dad was on set. When if
There are so many things in place now that were not in place when we were actually acting. Before every season, every single sitcom, especially with children, there is a mandatory health and safety meeting through lawyers to explain what quid pro quo is, to explain what diversity
oh wow,
is about. These meetings are brand new. And there's things that you're like, obviously, but obviously that did not happen with Dan Schneider. I remember there was a season of a show that I was on with kids. I'm not going to say what, when, how, but I remember the parents not coming to set. And I stopped and I said, I need every parent on this set. No, they don't need to be there. It's safe. I said, no.
yeah,
Yeah.
You can be in the stands. You
Yep.
can be sitting down there. You can do whatever you need
Yeah.
to. But for a child, knowing their parent is there, if their parent isn't toxic,
Yeah.
is safe.
Absolutely.
And then there's the double-edged sword of your school teacher being a social worker. And there are some amazing school teachers who witness
Yeah.
a toxic family environment
Yeah.
and help that child get through it. And that's also very important, because let's not forget about toxicity at home and abusive nature at
Absolutely.
home.
Yeah.
Working a child for different reasons than our
Yeah.
parent did,
Yeah.
and not being taken
Shia
care of
LaBeouf.
and secure.
Shia
Shia LaBeouf, the girl from Modern Family. There's so many stories, and it's scary because
Jeanette
kids,
McCurdy. I mean, that was huge. That book she
yeah,
wrote.
yeah.
kids
That
are
book
not
is
safe
crazy.
in general.
It's a big conversation, and I think it's super layered, and clearly it's too big for us to cover and touch on
Yeah.
everything today. And it just really goes
It
so deep.
goes.
But I thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Yeah,
We
I
have to
think-
toast.
Toast.
We
Let's do it.
always toast. Let's make a toast.
toast.
Yay! Today, I want to toast to the both of you.
Aw, babes, why?
Thank you.
Me first.
No, I'm going to toast you
Red first, then me.
collectively.
Oh,
Today,
okay.
the toast goes to Raven and Kyle. I mean,
Oh!